What if the world's most gripping spy thrillers didn't just reflect Cold War paranoia, they actually predicted the 21st century? Forget dusty history books. The wildest secrets, the darkest technology, and the future's biggest dangers were hiding in plain sight, projected onto flickering screens while the rest of us munched popcorn. How many of these movies were warnings we simply ignored? And just how close are we now to living out their most chilling visions? Buckle up, some of these predictions are still unfolding. The Manchurian Candidate, 1962. Let's start with a movie that felt wild in the early 60s, but now looks less like science fiction and more like last week's headlines. The Manchurian Candidate didn't just tap into Cold War anxiety, it went straight for the jugular. Here's the setup. American soldiers are brainwashed by enemy agents, sent home as living weapons, and used to influence politics from within. At the time, brainwashing was a new fear, fueled by real stories of POWs coming home changed. The film cranked the paranoia to 11, asking, what if the people pulling the strings aren't just overseas, but already sitting at your dinner table? Fast forward to today, and suddenly this story isn't so outlandish. Think about modern worries, algorithmic manipulation, media brainwashing, bots shaping elections, and the constant sneaky battle for the public mind. The Manchurian Candidate practically drew the blueprint for those fears. Its blend of psychological horror and political suspense is still fresh, because now we're living with headlines about foreign influence campaigns, digital brainwashing, and the terrifying power of misinformation. The real kicker? After all these years, we still have no idea who's really controlling the narrative. The Manchurian Candidate predicted a world where trust is a weapon, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is ever what it seems. Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, 1964. You want absurd? You want prophetic? Dr. Strangelove delivered both with a nuclear-powered punch. Stanley Kubrick's black comedy doesn't just poke fun at the Cold War. It roasts it alive, using sharp wit to expose the razor-thin line between order and absolute chaos. The setup is brilliant. A room packed with military brass and political experts, all of them stumbling and arguing as the world slides toward nuclear Armageddon, not through malice, but through a perfect storm of accidents, ego, and blind trust in technology. What makes Dr. Strangelove so chilling isn't just the laughs, it's the gut-level anxiety that the film's disaster could actually happen. Kubrick zeroes in on the idea that the systems designed to keep us safe, automated launches, mutually assured destruction, rigid protocols, might be the very things that doom us. The infamous doomsday machine, set to obliterate life on Earth at the first sign of attack, is treated like an office prank gone wrong. Yet behind every punchline is a terrifying question. Are we really in control, or are we just pushing buttons and hoping for the best? Jump to today, and Dr. Strangelove feels more prophetic than ever. Now, debates rage about artificial intelligence in warfare, drones that act on their own, and aging nuclear arsenals still armed and waiting. The movie's core message hits home. Sometimes, the scariest threat isn't the enemy outside, it's the system inside that no one can stop. If you're still laughing by the end, maybe you should check if the countdown has already started. 3 Days of the Condor, 1975. Imagine clocking in for a boring desk job, only to stumble across a conspiracy that could topple the government, and suddenly find yourself the most hunted man in America. That's exactly what happens in 3 Days of the Condor. Robert Redford plays a bookish CIA analyst, just a guy who reads for a living, hoping to stay out of trouble. But when his entire office is wiped out in a single, shocking act of violence, he's thrust into a deadly cat-and-mouse game where trust is poison and the enemy could be anyone. What truly sets this film apart isn't just its tension or clever twists, it's the way it cuts to the bone about power and the chilling unpredictability of those who hold it. Long before government leaks or whistleblowers became dinner table topics, 3 Days of the Condor saw it coming. The real dangers, it warns us, aren't always outside the walls. Sometimes the threat is right next to you, sitting at the next desk or reading your reports. Surveillance, sabotage, and control of information, this movie laid out the playbook for a new kind of warfare, one that happens behind closed doors and hidden agendas. Now, with secrets spilling everywhere and digital footprints replacing paper trails, this story feels like it's ripped from the news. Redford's desperate scramble isn't just about survival, it's a warning for all of us. When everyone's watching and no one's telling the truth, the future isn't waiting around the corner, it's already moving in and it doesn't even knock. The Conversation 1974. Before there was an internet, before anyone worried about phone hacking or social media spies, there was The Conversation, a film that saw the future in a tangle of wires and whispered confessions. Gene Hackman plays Harry Call, a surveillance expert so good at his job he barely trusts himself. The setup: record everything, trust nothing, and whatever you do, never, ever get personal. The Conversation takes paranoia to a whole new level. Every footstep echoes, every cough is a clue. Harry's work, spying on others, slowly turns back on him until he's lost in his own maze of secrets. What's truly prophetic is how this film mapped out the dangers of a surveillance society, years before anyone was talking about metadata, wiretaps, or the cloud. Today, every device in your pocket could be listening. Every online move leaves a digital trail. We build smart homes, but who are they really smart for? The Conversation predicted a world where privacy is an illusion, and the line between watcher and watched gets blurrier every day. By the end, you're left asking, if you know everyone's secrets, can you ever be safe yourself? Or are we all just characters in someone else's recording, hoping the tape never gets played back at the wrong moment? The Conversation was ahead of its time, and honestly, it's still catching up with us. War Games, 1983. Long before teenagers were blamed for hacking their school computers, War Games predicted the next great battlefield: cyberspace. Matthew Broderick's character is just a kid who likes video games and stumbles into the ultimate high-stakes game by accidentally hacking into a military supercomputer that controls America's nuclear arsenal. Oops. What follows is a race against the clock as the lines between simulation and reality vanish. The film raised questions no one had really thought about. What if computers can't tell the difference between a game and the real world? What if one bad password could start World War III? Suddenly, nuclear annihilation is just a keystroke away, and nobody, not even the generals, has control. Decades before anyone heard the words cyber warfare or AI arms race, War Games mapped it out in pixelated glory. Now, we live in a world where hackers shut down power grids, ransomware locks up hospitals, and everything from elections to banking is under digital threat. The genius of War Games isn't just that it imagined a world of online danger, it made us realize we were already building it. If you think a computer virus is scary, try explaining to a Pentagon official that their new AI can't stop playing with the red button. Sometimes the scariest enemy is the one you built yourself. And in this digital age, War Games is still playing. Sneakers, 1992. Before hacking became a household word, before cyber heists and data leaks made headlines, Sneakers pulled off the ultimate cinematic prediction: a world where everyone's secrets are just a keystroke away from exposure. Robert Redford leads a crew of oddball security experts who steal, test, and crack anything with a lock, digital or otherwise. Their biggest job? Recovering a black box capable of decoding every security system in existence. Here's the kicker. Sneakers doesn't just deliver old-school cloak-and-dagger fun. It forecasts a future where no code is unbreakable, and the true global arms race is about information, not missiles. In a time when people thought computers were only for nerds, this film said, guess what? The nerds are taking over. Social engineering, digital footprints, data blackmail. The script is a playbook for everything that would define the digital age. Fast forward to now, and the film's questions sound less like fiction, more like a TED Talk. Who controls the world's data? Can anyone really stay off the grid? When everything is connected, is anyone truly safe? Sneakers predicted that privacy wouldn't just be a right, it'd be an endangered species. If you want to see where big tech's paranoia really started, pop this one in and watch the past catch up with us, one password at a time. Enemy of the State, 1998. If you thought surveillance was just some far-off dystopian nightmare, Enemy of the State would like a word. Will Smith is just a regular guy, living a normal life, when he's swept into a storm of government conspiracy. Suddenly his world is turned upside down, his calls tapped, his every step tracked, and his reputation trashed in real time by an intelligence agency that turns the entire city into a personal hunting ground. It's not just about being watched, it's about being hunted, erased, and digitally destroyed, with every gadget and camera at the government's disposal. What's so remarkable about Enemy of the State is how it blurred the line between science fiction and reality. The movie dropped years before most of us worried about smartphones recording our conversations or satellites tracking our location. It mapped out a world where your face could be identified in a crowd, your data cataloged in a heartbeat, and your entire life used as leverage, long before any of us could imagine what NSA would mean in daily life. Paranoia? Maybe, but it feels a lot less crazy when you realize how much of it has actually come true. Watching Enemy of the State now is like tuning into the pilot episode of a reality show called The Surveillance Age. From traffic cams to credit card swipes, from wiretaps to tracking chips, the gap between public and private has disappeared. If you've ever wanted to know what it feels like to outrun Big Brother, this is the manual. It's more than a thriller, it's a warning that won't let you look away. No Way Out, 1987? Here's a film that throws a digital twist into classic espionage. No Way Out. Kevin Costner stars as a sharp naval officer who suddenly finds himself trapped in a deadly labyrinth of politics, betrayal, and murder. The real tension isn't just from backroom whispers or coded messages. It comes from the cutting-edge technology of the late 80s. Forget fingerprints or shoe prints. The whole investigation hinges on a single, blurry photograph and the government's ability to use computer forensics and image enhancement to unmask the killer. No Way Out predicted the rise of digital footprints before most people even owned a personal computer. Every pixel in that crucial photograph is examined, enhanced, and analyzed, each tiny detail drawing the noose tighter around Costner's character. Hiding in plain sight used to mean a clever disguise or a quick getaway. In this film, survival means staying one step ahead of relentless computers and government databases, a digital dragnet where every scrap of evidence can and will be used against you. Flash forward to today, and the film's prophecy feels almost tame. Facial recognition, GPS data, metadata from photos, all the ways we leave digital fingerprints make vanishing nearly impossible. The same tools meant to catch real criminals can turn on anyone, blurring the line between innocence and guilt with just a few clicks. No Way Out saw it all coming. A world where your greatest enemy might not be a person, but your own data scattered across 100 machines. In the digital age, survival isn't about hiding. It's about staying ahead of the tech that's always one step behind you. The Russia House, 1990. Some spy movies are about gadgets, explosions, and flashy car chases. The Russia House takes a different route, digging into the future of trust, information leaks, and the global spread of secrets, years before leak became a headline buzzword. Sean Connery plays a jaded British publisher swept into a risky dance with Michelle Pfeiffer's mysterious Russian contact, all thanks to a batch of sensitive documents that could rock the world order. But the real story isn't the romance or even the classic East vs. West intrigue. It's the way information, once released, can't be contained. The Russia House predicted a future where old-school spy games would be outpaced by a single game-changing act: the mass data dump. What happens when confidential intel isn't just used for blackmail, but is suddenly public knowledge? What if a single leak can topple governments, shift alliances, or start new wars? The movie's unsettling answer is that when everyone can get their hands on state secrets, chaos isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Today, the prophecy is reality. Global transparency, digital leaks, and whistleblower bombshells shape headlines and topple leaders. The Russia House asked who controls the truth, but it also showed what happens when truth becomes uncontrollable. In this new era, trust itself is on the endangered list, and the next big leak could be just one click away. Failsafe, 1964. If you want to know what real Cold War nightmares looked like, step into the world of Failsafe, a movie that skips the satire and heads straight for your nerves. This isn't about wild villains or improbable gadgets. It's about something far scarier: regular people making honest mistakes and the world sliding toward nuclear catastrophe because of a simple technical error. Here's the premise. A computer glitch sends a squadron of American bombers on an irreversible path toward Moscow. The president, played by Henry Fonda, scrambles to stop the attack, but communication is slow. decisions get muddled, and suddenly, humanity is one misinterpreted phone call away from ending itself. There's no comic relief here, just the relentless ticking of the doomsday clock and the terrifying sense that, in a world of buttons and protocols, all it takes is one bad day. Fail-safe predicted the era when technology and automation wouldn't just help us, they'd threaten us. This film foresaw the dangers of relying on machines and cold calculations for decisions too big for any machine to make. Fast forward to today, with algorithms controlling power grids, drones flying unsupervised, and warnings about automation bias, and fail-safe feels like a sober warning that keeps getting louder. In the end, this movie asks a haunting question. When everything depends on systems and screens, can we ever truly feel safe? Or are we all just hoping the next glitch won't be the last one? The Conversation 1974. Before privacy became a buzzword, before every gadget in your pocket started listening in, The Conversation warned us what would happen when eavesdropping turned digital. Gene Hackman's Harry Call is the best in the surveillance game. So good, he's terrified by what he hears. Tinkering with microphones and reel-to-reel tapes in his lonely workshop, he pieces together a recording that hints at murder, power, and paranoia at the highest levels. What makes The Conversation a true oracle? It's not the technology, it's the creeping realization that knowing too much can be deadly. Long before smartphones or the internet, the film saw the future, a world where every call, every secret, every offhand remark could be weaponized by anyone with the right gear. Harry can't escape his own skills. His obsession with listening in leads him down a rabbit hole where no one is safe, not even the watcher. Today, with voice assistants, webcams, and apps that know more about us than our closest friends, The Conversation feels like a prediction scribbled on the back of a napkin and slipped under the world's door. If you think you're safe because no one's watching, think again. Sometimes the scariest enemy isn't the one breaking in, it's the one quietly recording everything you say. The Parallax View 1974. Some films don't just predict the future, they expose the hidden gears already turning. The Parallax View is one of those movies, released in the post-Watergate haze of suspicion and conspiracy. It follows a dogged journalist, played by Warren Beatty, as he stumbles onto a mysterious corporation recruiting political assassins through psychological testing. This isn't a story about clear-cut villains. It's about how power operates in the shadows, hidden behind layers of bureaucracy and deniability. The Parallax View predicted a world where the truth is so deeply buried under misinformation and media manipulation that finding it is almost impossible. The film's slow-burn paranoia, sudden violence, and institutional secrecy became the blueprint for countless modern thrillers about deep-state plots and false narratives. Watching it today, you can't help but see the parallels with our own era of disinformation, algorithm-driven social engineering, and viral conspiracy theories. The movie dares to suggest that when big interests are threatened, reality itself can be rewritten, and the only people who see it coming are often ignored or eliminated. The Parallax View didn't just foresee the future, it predicted how easy it is for the powerful to twist perceptions, erase inconvenient truths, and make the real story disappear. In a world where headlines move faster than facts, this movie's haunting final shot lingers long after the credits roll. So, how many of these Cold War classics do you see playing out in the headlines right now? The wildest spy movies didn't just predict the future, they practically scripted it. Which film hit closest to home for you? Did any of these twisted predictions leave you looking over your shoulder? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more stories where fiction meets reality, and share this list with your favorite conspiracy theorist. Remember, in the world of cinema, the next prophecy might be just a reel away.